the middle of Louisiana, but we wanted to do a PEC Talks today to talk about um, this woman who I am just in awe of. I'm so
Mm.
proud of her. I don't know her name, I don't know anything about her, but she has done something to raise awareness about what's going on. Do you want to tell a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's at the We Spa, the WI We Spa. I'm pretty sure that's in California. And yeah, this guy who says he's a woman was in the locker room. I don't know if locker room is the right word because it's a pretty upscale spa. So the ladies' changing room. And there were young girls in there, from what I understand, possibly children, teens, young girls and women. And he's in there with his junk out.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, it wasn't like, oh, oops, I was changing and I showed a little bit. Like he's in there full on flashing
Yeah.
because that's what these guys do. They get off on showing their junk to women. And so this lady complained. You want to talk about
And
the complaint?
she was completely ignored by the staff there.
Yeah.
Not only that, but a man approached her and was incredibly rude to her,
Mm-hmm.
basically trying to say that she was the one who was in the wrong for complaining about this. And Maria, one of the things that I wanted to just mention about this is Partners for Ethical Care is really focused on stopping the medicalization of children, of stopping transitioning from being a medical intervention for children. And so some people might say, well, what does this have to do with it? And you and I both know a lot about grooming. And in my opinion, accepting the contention that a biological male can actually be female and allowed in female spaces is a process of grooming. And do you want to talk
Mm-hmm.
about that a little bit? Hi, Alex. We already got started.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
We jumped in. We jumped in and we started talking about what's going on at the
Okay,
We
great.
Spa. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So Maria was
Yes.
just about to talk about how this absurdity of allowing men who claim to be women in women's spaces where they're vulnerable is actually part of grooming, and why Partners for Ethical Care is concerned about it.
Yeah, it's introducing children to sexual topics, to sexual images, to adult sexual organs is all part of desensitizing them to things that they shouldn't be introduced to. And I keep saying this over and over and over again. Until puberty, children are not interested in sex. Children should have really no awareness or interest in sex unless they've been introduced to it by adults. And that is the only, and it's not a natural reason. That's the only reason that kids pre-puberty would be at all interested in or aware of this. And adults who present sexual things to children are grooming them towards sexual exploitation. And Alex, you know a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean, grooming is something that, happens in plain sight. People have this impression of grooming as if it's, a guy comes and jumps out in the street and attacks a person. I mean, that, of course, that does happen, but that is not how predators choose their targets. We want to think about somebody like Michael Jackson. He was very particular in the way that he altered the reality of the children around them and also the adults around them. Because if you're just to take this idea, okay, that I'm a 35-year-old man and I hang out with children and sleep in the bed with them, you're going to tell me I'm crazy. But if I groom you and I tell you, but I've had a weird childhood and I just really love these kids and blah, 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 I can get you to kind of go along with anything. Now, I love women's spaces. So I did go to a women's, before COVID, I did go to a women's gym. And I have done so for 15 years. I go to women's gyms, I go to women's bookstores. I have a very women focused kind of life. Now, in my 15 years of going to women only services, no woman has shown me her breasts. No woman has shown me a piece of her anything. in a gym, in a swimming pool. So this idea that this quote unquote trans woman has shown a penis is all the more evidence that this is just a desensitization tactic. No
Yeah.
woman in a spa would do that.
Right. The other thing that I want to mention is that it's undermining basic reality for children. So if children are forced to believe that a biological male becomes a woman simply by claiming to be so, that undermines, really basic reality. It means that they can't trust their perceptions. And that's one of the hallmarks of groomers. They teach kids that, maybe they're not perceiving things correctly, and that's a way that they can convince them that the things that are happening to them are okay. And so I really think Partners for Ethical Care has a ethical duty to stand up for truth. And the truth is that a man does not become a woman simply by proclaiming himself to be one, and that women in no way should be forced to accept biological males in their spaces simply because it might hurt that particular male's feelings if they're not accepted in there. And I want to really push this, that we're not consenting, that any man who goes into a woman's space like this is a predator, because we are not consenting. Even if one woman out of 100 women at a gym says no, that woman is not consenting, and that consent needs to be respected. So this action is inherently predatory.
And I love what this woman did. She went and complained, and she did not back down. And I'm sure while that was happening, other people were mocking her. They're mocking her online. She's being made out to be a transphobic fool. She's not. She's a hero. She's strong. This is what we all need to be doing. We all need to be going to the management and saying, no, I'm not putting up with this. No, this is not acceptable. I don't care what you call me. I don't care how you cast me in this. This is wrong, and it is not acceptable to me. And we've all got to be doing that. And frankly, women who are okay with being in these private spaces with men, go to the men's room.
Yeah, if you're
You
okay
go to the
with
men's
it,
room.
yeah, exactly.
And then these guys who are so concerned about being in the dressing room with women, they'll get to be there with women. Win-win for everybody. Leave the women's rooms for the women.
Yeah, and I am just so proud of these women. I hear that there's going to be a protest at the spa, and I'm so proud of women for standing up to this. And we really need to get strong and do this. We need to go and complain. We need to, call the police if there are men in our bathrooms. We need to object to biological males in our showers. The only way this is going to stop is if we get strong, and it makes me mad. We shouldn't have to do this. Our spaces should be respected, and it infuriates me that we have to put ourselves at risk of being mocked and shamed and ridiculed. But we are going to do this because we are not going to lose our spaces.
Yeah. You know what else? I have to say that I am quite inspired, really, that this has happened, and it was bound to happen at some point. But, I think that this woman is emblematic of the kind of abuse that you do get. They've painted her in all kinds of negative ways, and they've made fun of her religion, which I think is I've also seen some racist things against her. So this is just kind of, symptomatic. Now, where Partners for Ethical Care comes in is that we want to remind everybody that it's not just the potties. You've been groomed as well, or rather, most of us have, to accept a nonsense concept that is the transgender child. There is no such thing as a transgender child or a transsexual child.
Transgender is not an identity. It's a medical intervention that is experimental and not effective for treating gender dysphoria. We have to keep pushing back that this is not an identity.
Yes, and this whole idea of the transgender child, it is completely invented. It is completely made out of whole cloth. Now, we know at Partners for Ethical Care exactly what is going on with children, because the parents are coming to us terrified week after week after week. Partners for Ethical Care mans or women's a 24/7 chat line where you can talk to one of our experts and volunteers I believe that we're the only organization which is providing that type of help. We're also providing help to detransitioners. And we are, of course, tracking the movements of these clinics. Now, I was incredibly upset to report myself that 6 new gender clinics have opened up in the last month. So we really need to keep how do you say it? The pedal to the metal. We have to keep on going with this, because just as we are being told that some women have penises, I can't even say it without vomiting, we are also being told that there is such a thing as a transgender child. And we're here to say no, no.
Yeah, we are going to stand up for these children, and we invite you to come to Partners for Ethical Care website. If you're a teacher, a therapist, a healthcare provider, a parent, a detransitioner, anybody who has a story about this that you want to share, please come to our website. We're trying to document what's happening so that we can show this is really happening, because one of the tactics that trans activists use is they say, oh, you're just making this up. It never happens. Well, we know it happens, and we know that men are invading our spaces, and we know that children are being medically abused. So we encourage you to come to Partners for Ethical Care. There's lots of resources there, and we're here to help you.